Hello, my name is Mathias and welcome to the Gameweek 33 preview here on the FPL Scope YouTube channel. And considering it's such a quick turnaround between Gameweek 32 and Gameweek 33, I'm going to do one big compressed video this week rather than 4 different ones that I usually do. So normally I do the weekend walkthrough on Mondays, I do the weekly wildcard draft on either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, we do the FPL Scope podcast with my co-hosts Kevin and Kimo on releasing on Thursdays, and then depending on a Friday or Saturday deadline, I do the team selection video for my own team on Thursdays or Fridays. So I'm going to put all of those videos into one, do it in one take, and this has been my third take because I actually did a perfect take earlier and I didn't plug in the mic, so no sound, sadly, and that's just the trials and tribulations of up and coming YouTuber, I guess. But anyways, now the mic should be plugged on, hopefully. I don't want to waste any more time because we have a lot to go through, and we're going to start with the first segment, which is the weekend walkthrough. And normally I take pretty much a deep dive into every single game that happened this past weekend and take a look at it from an FPL perspective. And normally I look at each game, pretty much all the players, everything that stood out to me. But now, since I don't have much time, I have so much else to do. This is not a standalone video. I'm just going to go quickly 1 point on each team rather than going super deep. But anyway, starting with Fulham, easy mention here. Andreas Pereira, 10 points. He got the winning goal, and not really that surprising. Not that many people put him in their free hit team, I know, because he's so cheap, so people underestimate him and think, oh, you can get someone more expensive who's probably going to get more points. But Andreas has proven time and time again that he's worth way more than 4.3 that is valued at in FPL. Someone else who is worth a lot more than what the team is currently valuing him at, and that is Wilfred Gnonto, who doesn't get to play from start for Leeds anymore. He was so electric and amazing earlier in the season, and now he barely gets playtime. Sure, they have Somerville, Sinistera, Brendan Aronson, B. Aronson, as I like to call him, and Jack Harrison. So I know they have a lot of good players, good creative players, but I think Gnonto should play more. And yeah, not really. As long as he doesn't play, I don't really mind Leeds losing and potentially going down, because I want Gnonto to play and thrive in the Premier League. Moving on to the next game, Brentford against Aston Villa. A lot of people thought with Brentford losing 3 matches in a row and Aston Villa looking so amazing against Newcastle that Aston Villa would win this game, but Brentford actually deserved to win, and they had the win until the very last moment where Aston Villa scored an equalizing goal. But that was not from Ollie Watkins, who has been unstoppable lately, but was really stoppable in this game. He is actually 4th in terms of expected goal involvement for Aston Villa with 0.35. So really disappointing for all of us who brought him in on a free hit. I haven't had him this whole season, and now that I brought him in on a free hit, he blanks. Typical troll behavior from Ollie Watkins, and should really expect more from him. But he has been so good lately, so it's kind of a letdown. But Ivan Toney, on the other hand, he has proven all the doubters wrong. He did miss a penalty a couple game weeks ago that could have given him a much bigger score. But anyone that kept him for this long or brought him back on a free hit, well done to you, because he scored a really nice goal. Back post, easy to happen for him for Brentford, giving them the lead. And yeah, he also managed to stay the whole game without getting a yellow card. So now he can't get a yellow card ban for the season because the threshold has now been raised to 15 matches before he gets a suspension. And considering he's on 9 yellow cards and there's only 6 games left to play, he can get 6 yellow cards in the 6 next matches, but then he would be suspended for his first match of next season, which he might be anyway, because I think that's when the betting ban is going to come into effect. I think it's too late now in this season to start the ban now and then just have most of the summer being his ban rather than starting next season off with a ban. So it's going to be interesting next season. But let's move on to the next game. We don't have much time, so let's talk about the least interesting fixture this weekend, and that was Crystal Palace against Everton. The most interesting thing, though, is that Sam Johnston, who was the favored goalkeeper by far on a free hit, actually got 5 saves from 0.39 XG, which is kind of crazy and exactly what you want from an FPL goalkeeper. So 5 easy saves, save points, bonus points, clean sheet points, 10 points in general for Sam Johnston. Well done for anyone that brought him in or had him from start. Someone else had him on the bench, but we'll get to that later. Anyways, Everton, the only thing of note with them is that Calvert-Lewin is back. He has been injured pretty much all season, and now he is back starting. Didn't really get that close to scoring, but but still. Ended 0-0, decent point for Everton. Crystal Palace had a goal disallowed. Eze, who's looked really good lately, scored a goal, but it was ruled off, I think, for offside. So sad for Eze owners, and yeah, sad for them, I guess. Moving on to the next game, Leicester against Wolverhampton. And notable thing here, Iheanacho took a penalty for Leicester. Didn't really do much other than that, though. So I don't really know if he's such a good pick going forward in FPL, even though Leicester are looking way better. I think also anyone that picked Maddison and had someone like Eze come in from the bench can consider themselves really unlucky, because I think Maddison would have had such a high score in this game if he played, because Leicester look a lot better now under Dean Smith, and Wolverhampton are there for the taking really for any team. So yeah, I think they could have won like 4-1 or something if Maddison had played, and he could have had a lot of points. So sad times for anyone that went with Maddison, I guess, unless you got someone awesome off the bench. But Wolverhampton, kind of unreliable still. They're still building for next season, and it seems like they're going to stay up now after 2 wins before this game, but they didn't really have much to go with against Leicester. Moving on to the next match, probably the most important match of the weekend for most FPL managers, because a lot of people invested a lot of money in Liverpool. You invested wisely in Trent Alexander-Arnold and Salah. Both got returns, 5 points from Trent and 7 points from Salah. Not the best, I guess, but hey, you can't really complain about that. And then finally, the player that we all should have had probably is Diogo Jota, who scored 2 goals. Meanwhile, Cody Gakpo, who was the more popular pick, ended up with 1 point because he only played 59 minutes. So sad times for anyone who did that move and had Gakpo rather than Jota. But anyone that picked Jota, well done. 13 points for you guys. Really, really nice for him. Jota's looking amazing, and I'm wondering if he starts now, if he is nailed now from now until the end of the season and continues playing like this. I wonder what his price is going to be next season, and his position, because he should really be a midfielder considering he plays on the wing, the opposite wing of Salah, with Gakpo and Nunez up front as well. So yeah, I think he's going to be a midfielder, and I think he's probably going to be around the same price, like 8.5 or 9, and I think that might be a steal next season, but that's next season. Someone else who might be a steal next season, speaking of that, is Morgan Gibbs-White. Had an assist and had a goal for Forest. Not the best XGI, but still a lot of FPL points, and he's just top class. He's the best player at Nottingham Forest, and I think he's going to stay in the Premier League whether Forest go down or not. I think he's going to stay go to a different team if they go down, and might even potentially get a big 6 move eventually as well. I think Wolverhampton are sort of kicking themselves for selling him, even though they got like 40 million for him. I think that's a price worth paying for sure for Forest. But moving on to the highlight of my week, because I'm a West Ham fan, and that is West Ham's 4-0 win against Bournemouth on Sunday. Really buried the match before the half with 2 headers from Antonio and Paqueta early on in the match, and then Declan Rice scored 3-0. In the second half was kind of more quiet from West Ham, but they did score a magnificent goal from Pablo Fornals, who scored a scorpion kick. And what's interesting is that this scorpion kick, which is where you lift your foot behind your head and shoot with your heel, that shot from Fornals earned him 0.72 expected goals, that shot alone, which is kind of crazy, because I guess on the stat sheet it just says a right-footed shot from 6 yards out with just the goalkeeper in front of him, so sure, easy goal, but seeing as he has to score like an acrobatic kick, it's kind of strange that it doesn't account for that in XG, and he gets 0.72, so XG is not this infallible know-it-all stat. But anyways, I think that's also sort of reflected in Solanke's stat as well, because I felt like he had way bigger chances to score than 0.37. He had some shots that were blocked. I guess that's why the XG is low, because he had players in front of him. That's usually really bad for XG, but I think Solanke could have had more goals if he was a bit more lucky, and kind of unlucky for those guys who went with him on a free hit, because he was a really popular pick as well. So yeah, that was Bournemouth, who looked way worse now than they have been lately, and I think that's also down to not playing Dango Ouattara from start, and not even putting him on at the half. They put on Kiefer Moore as a striker, and that meant that Solanke played more as a second striker as well, so that sort of hampered him as well. So I think Dango should play from start, and I think Solanke is going to play as a striker and going to be a really good pick going forward. I'm going to talk more about that later. But some other good picks were Newcastle players pretty much. Joe Linton with goal and assist, I think. Jacob Murphy with 2 goals. Isak with 2 goals. Joe Willock with an amazing pass. And just in general, the goals from Newcastle were just amazing to watch in different ways as well. Like, they had some really good goals. The Joe Linton goal, the 2-0 goal, I think, where he took the silkiest of touches, went past the goalkeeper and scored. Beautiful goal. And then Murphy scored a long shot where he made this face, as you can see right next to me. He made that face, which is sort of becoming a meme. But yeah, it's a pretty funny face. But anyways, Murphy, 4.1 in fantasy, by the way. He's like the cheapest midfielder you can get. So huge score for him. Anyone that brought him in or had him, if you had him on the bench and you got him in for Madison or something like that, that would be amazing if you have that type of story. But anyways, moving on, Newcastle just destroyed Spurs, and it's kind of karma, I think, for Spurs. Like, I'm a West Ham fan, so obviously, I'm going to take my chances at making fun of Spurs. But the Spurs fans booed Davinson Sanchez last home game to the point that where he cried on the bench because he was subbed off, and yeah, he hasn't been the best player for Spurs. He came for big money, and he hasn't played well at all. But I think he's given his best, and I think it's sort of harsh to boo him out of the pitch when he's tried his best, really. So anyways, those are just my thoughts. I know people like to boo incompetence, well, whatever. That's a different discussion for a different day. But that was the weekly or the weekend walkthrough. I normally talk a bit more about each game, but we got to move on to the next segment. And the next segment is my Gameweek 32 score. And as you can see, I had some good things. Isak, like I just briefly mentioned, he scored 2 goals, 3 bonus points, 13 points in general. Amazing pick for me. Really happy that I went with him as my final striker, even though there were a lot of good forwards this week. Ironically, not the 2 most popular strikers, Jesus and Watkins, who both blanked, but Isak did really well, and that sort of mitigated some damages from my team because I was between Gakpo and Isak or Madison and Jota as my players. And if I'd done Madison and Jota, I would have had the 13 points from Jota, which is the same as Isak, but I also would have had Madison not playing and Andreas coming off the bench with 10 points. So I would have had 9 more points from that as well. Also kind of unlucky with Alex Moreno, who got subbed off right after Aston Villa conceded. It was a straight swap with Digne, so I think that sub was coming anyway. So if Emery had been a bit quicker with the subs, Moreno would have had a clean sheet and potentially bonus as well. So kind of lucky there. Goalkeeper as well, Martinez had to be taken off at the half because of a stomach issue, I think. And if he had just been taken off before the match, I would have had Johnston in goal as well with 10 points. You really should have gone with Johnston anyway, probably, but so that's my bad, I guess. But just a bit of a shame because this could have been a huge game week for me, but it ended up being just like a meh game week. 25 points on the bench as well, which is kind of interesting. But anyways, that was my game week. As you can see, my rank is not the best. This game week sort of encapsulates my season so far. Like the 50-50 decisions, Martinez versus Johnston, Gakpo and Jota versus, or Gakpo and Isak versus Madison and Jota. I did the wrong 50-50 decision on each one of them, and one of them I went with the template pick of Gakpo over Jota, and the other one I went against the template with Martinez over Johnston, and both times I got screwed over. So yeah, that's just how my season has been. So I'm going to strike back by far than the next season. So just you wait. But I'm a much better manager than what my my current rank says, I think. But you just have to trust me on that, I guess. Moving on the podcast, because this is usually part of the podcast where we go through the teams from both my co-hosts, Kevin and Kimo, who are not here today. We talk about their teams and their plans going forward. We also talk about the team of the manager of the week, meaning the player in the FPL Scope mini league that got the most points. And this week it is Peritonitus from, I'm hoping this is the correct, that he's actually from there, but it says that he's from St. Vincent and Grenadines, which is really amazing. That's like a country in the Caribbean, I think. So yeah, really cool if you're actually from there. Really cool that you joined our mini league and that you watch our content. That's amazing. But great team for him. He had Johnson in goal. He had Castagne, who scored a goal even though he conceded, so that got him some really nice points. He also went with Gakpo rather than Jota, but he had Tony as well getting 9 points. So decent game week. It's 77 points. It could have been more, actually. You could have had a lot more if you had Jota as a striker and potentially Andreas as the midfielder. And also the 2 strikers. There were so many good strikers this game week. So if you went against the template with Jesus and Watkins and went for some different strikers, you could have had a much higher score. You could have had like 100 plus points. But anyways, this guy was the best in our mini league. Really good score, 77 points. Kimo actually got really close. He got 75 points, I think, so it was really close. It was just, I think he had a different striker or something that didn't work out or something like that. But well done to Kimo as well. Kevin didn't do quite as well, but yeah, he doesn't have to talk about that this game week, luckily for him. So yeah, we're just going to move on. Congrats to this guy for being the manager of the week. If you want to be the manager of the week next week as well, you can, or not you personally, but anyone of you watching, if you want to be the manager of the week, you can join our mini league. As you can see, the league code right above me there, not right above me, but quite far above me there. You can see the league code, which is 6IYV7U. If you put that league code into the FPL Scope, or the FPL Scope, the Fantasy Premier League website, you're going to find our league, and you can join our mini league, which would be amazing, because we had people from, hopefully, St. Vincent and Grenadines. We have had people from Nigeria. We've had people from all over the world, really, Egypt, Norway, all those places. It's really amazing to see all corners of the world joining in the FPL Scope League, which is fun to see. But moving on, we have another segment, or soon we have another segment. Usually in the podcast, we look at the fixture ticker, and the fixture ticker is actually quite interesting now because all matches are now confirmed. There are no matches are left to be that are still not in the game week, so to speak. So we've had some fixtures added since last time, and that is in Gameweek 36. Brighton and Newcastle got a double game week. They play each other, so Brighton play Arsenal away and Newcastle away, which is pretty difficult for them. Newcastle, however, have Leeds away and Brighton at home, which is a decent game week for them. Isak, Trippier should load up on those guys. Then in Gameweek 37, we had 4 teams with double game weeks. As you can see at the top of the fixture ticker, Man United, Brighton, and Man City, they all have double game weeks in 37, and they're all at top of this fixture ticker because they have the easiest matches going forward. So try to load up on Man United, Brighton, and Man City players. Normally we talk more about the fixture ticker and especially the stats, the expected goals conceded, and which teams we are targeting and stuff. But seeing as we got to move on quickly in this video, we're not going to talk that much about that. Instead, we're going to move on to something that is affected by the fixture ticker, and that is the weekly wildcard drafts. And this is a segment that I do every Tuesday or Wednesday, depends on the week. But every week we do the weekly wildcard draft, which is basically where I draft what I think is the best squad in Fantasy Premier League going forward in the next 4 to 5 game weeks. So we do this every week. We compare the weekly wildcard draft from this week to the one from last week. And as you can see on the list next to me, this isn't actually from last week. This is from before Game Week 31, because last week was free hit game week and sort of like a weird game week in general. But anyways, before the Game Week 31, this was the weekly wildcard draft right next to me. And as you can see, it's hard to point on this, the camera. But anyways, as you can see, near the bottom are the players that I didn't have that much faith in. So it works the way that the number 1 pick is the one that I'm the most sure of, the most essential player to have in Fantasy Premier League, and the players near the bottom are the players that I do like, but I don't really have as much faith in. And you can see that reflected in the last weekly wildcard draft, where most of the names at the bottom dropped out for the new names. You can see all the green names in the squad. Those are the new names that made the team. And most of the guys at the top actually stayed. The one exception is McAllister, but that is just McAllister going to March, because McAllister has played more defensively now because Joel Weltman had to be subbed off with an injury, and that put Gross at right back and McAllister back in midfield with Enciso coming as attacking mid. So that's why McAllister drops out for Solly March, who was unlucky and missed the penalty for Brighton in the FA Cup. I didn't mention that in the weekend walkthrough, but yeah, they played 120 minutes and ended being 0-0, and Man United won a penalty shootout. And meanwhile, this Man City game, Riyad Mahrez scored a hat-trick for Man City against Sheffield United, so maybe he's going to be a good option as well going forward. That's the thing with Grealish. That's why he sort of dropped down from 5 to 9, with Foden coming back as well, and Man City still in the Champions League. I feel like Grealish is not as nailed going forward, but he's still such an amazing pick, and it seems like Pep trusts him entirely now. So anyways, there are a lot of stuff to talk about with this team. I'm not going to get into it that much because this video has to be a bit quicker, a bit snappier, so sadly I can't talk about every player, but that's normally what I do on the weekly wildcard drafts. I talk about every single player. I go from number 1 pick, reveal every pick from number 1 until number 15, and just talk about why I've picked every single player. But that's going to be next week, so subscribe and you'll get to see that next week before game week. Well, maybe not next game week because there's going to be a short turnaround for game week 34 as well. But anyways, we're going to feature the weekly wildcard drafts until the end of the season and from the start of next season as well. So stay tuned for that. Moving on, we're going to talk more about my team and what my plans are. That's usually what I end the week with my team selection video, which is usually posted either on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on when the deadline is. But anyways, my team is looking pretty good for Gameweek 33. I feel like there are some players I wish I had differently. I obviously wish I had this weekly wildcard draft team. I wish I had a wildcard and could get this team rather than the team that I have currently, but it's not too bad. And my one decision is whether I should keep Kane this game week or not, because I'm pretty much 100% or 95%, let's say, sure that I'm going to sell Kane for Gameweek 34. So it just depends if I'm going to sell him already, because I want to fund Salah I want to get money for Salah in midfield. So it just depends if I want to do Kane right now. I might do Kane to Jota, but then I'd have to sell Fernandes to get Salah. Maybe that's the way I go. Also looking at potentially selling McAllister, but then I'd have to downgrade Kane to someone like Solanke. Like I mentioned, Solanke has Southampton away, I think. So is Southampton away for Solanke better than Kane against Man United at home and then the transfer used as well? Or should I just save the transfer and do two transfers next week? Or potentially 3 transfers, getting both Jota and Salah in my team. Not entirely sure, but those are sort of my tentative plans. I still haven't completely decided. I can also just stand pat. That's probably what I'm leading towards doing right now. Just staying put with this team and selling Kane next week to get Salah and Jota when they don't play West Ham and they have a double game week. But anyways, I'm in no rush to bring them in against West Ham, even though that's probably a profitable game for them. Even though West Ham have looked pretty good lately, but that's enough West Ham talk. Let's move on to just the outro, really. That's it for the video. Those were just really quickly everything we cover each week on the FPL Scope. Normally, we do the FPL Scope podcast with Kevin and Kimo, like I mentioned earlier. They're going to be back probably before Gameweek 35. Gameweek 34, like I said, is coming a bit too soon, and Kimo is still in Egypt for Ramadan. So Eid Mubarak to anyone who celebrated this weekend. I hope you had a great time with friends and family. If you celebrated, if you didn't, hope you had a great time anyway this weekend. And yeah, I hope you stay with us as well on the FPL Scope, whether you subscribe on YouTube, whether you follow us on Twitter or Instagram, or if you join our mini league. Like I said, 6IYV7U is the league code. Like, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, I think when I did the last recording, I had some nice segues into other stuff. I'm not going to mention that, but like I did in that video, I rambled, and that's what I usually do at the end of the video. So that is also usually a sign of me coming to an end in terms of this video, and that's what I'm going to do now. It don't even make sense now, so I'm going to stop rambling, and I'm going to stop this recording and just say goodbye. Thank you for listening.